Morning out there, cyber friends. It's Mitty Man coming back at you from Walker's Music with yet another word for the day. Giving a big shout out this morning to the YouTube family from Baby Justice all the way up to Big Papa JT. We count it a blessing, privilege, honor, thanking God for life, health, and strength for as well as it is. Also giving another shout out to you, bro JT, from after our conversation we had on last evening. Seemed, matter of fact, just not too many hours ago, just a few hours ago at that. Nevertheless, due to call this morning again, another funeral. I have a friend of mine that mom passed away, and I was asked to come and render the music for the homegoing service. So we kind of we give God the glory, and we just glad we are able to do what we are able to do, counting the blessing. I mentioned in one of my videos last evening, I believe, was telling everyone that the Christian, the saints were first called Christians at Antioch. And I tell you people, I always know if I say anything, it's in the scripture. Now, I may not quote the scripture in the verse, but I know it's in there. So I went and found the scripture so I could come back to you. Now I got something else here I want to say to everyone this morning. In the book of Acts, 11th chapter, and you start reading at 26th verse, it says this: And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church, and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. And in those days came prophets from Jerusalem unto Antioch. And there stood up one of them named Agabus, and signified by the Spirit that there should be a great dearth throughout all the world. A dearth is a famine, people, or a drought, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar. Then the disciples, every man according to his ability, determined to send relief unto the brethren which dwelt in Judea, which also they did, and sent it to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Saul. May God add a blessing to the readers, hearers, and doers of his holy word. You see, people, it's not that I was right, but I just know the scripture it was in the scripture. And the Christians didn't give themselves that name. They were called that. They were given that name when they was in Antioch. So we can put the rest of that myth when people talk about we gave ourselves our own titles and things. See, that proves that that's a lie right there, because they didn't do it. That was given to them. They were first called, the disciples were called at first at Antioch. Then we see here where they said there were certain prophets that came down from Jerusalem, and they prophesied. One by the name of Agabus, that got up and signified by the Spirit. He wasn't talking of his own accord. He was signified by the Spirit of God that there was going to be a famine or a drought throughout the whole world. People, that happened. Your history books tell you that happened. It was in the days of Claudius Caesar. But the thing that I want you to notice there, when this here dearth came over the earth, look what the disciples, every man according to his ability, determined to send relief to the brethren which dwelt in Judea, which also they did, and sent it to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Saul. You see, people, the disciples of every man, which means woman too, proud, according to their ability, they sent relief. It didn't say no percentage. It didn't say how much, or but it was according to their ability. Whatever that they was able to do, that's what they did send. And they sent it by the hand of who? Barnabas and Paul. And we know Barnabas and Paul, the missionaries. They were going around establishing churches, Paul was, and disciples in every part, in every city. They were going about establishing this. And the people, they knew that the brethren back in Judea was up on a drought and a famine. And they sent relief. How many of us, if we would do that same thing in this day and time? Well, you see, that's what we're supposed to be doing. See, the word hadn't changed. The principles hadn't changed. We changed. We are too selfish. Every man for himself. Dog eat dog. That's what we are this day and time. We don't send no relief to nobody. As long as I'm doing all right, I could care less about you. That's the mentality most people have. And you see, these early disciples, the early Christians, early saints, I would call them, they didn't have that sort of selfish mentality. They came to the relief of each other on whatever accord it was, as we can see here in this particular passage of Scripture. And they were sent it by the hands of Barnabas and Paul. Those were preachers. They was trusted with the money to send, to carry to the disciple that was in Judea. Now, people, I must admit that I know rather in these days and time it's hard to trust too many people with anything, let alone a pile of money, because money turns some people into a fool. The love of money is the root to all evil. And I will say that some people cannot be trusted to handle money. But oh, thank God that Barnabas and Paul was not one of them. Barnabas and Paul were two individuals that could be trusted. And they took this relief that these disciples gathered up, according to every man to his ability. And they sent the relief to the brethren that were there in Judea. How many of us would do that? We won't even lift a finger to help a brother or sister out and if you give them a cold glass of water. You see, it's according to your ability, people. Just because you can't do what that person did, that don't mean that give you an excuse not to do anything. But some people you see, because of the fact that they can't shine, they don't want to do nothing. In other words, if they see an individual give big money in the collection, well, because they don't have about maybe $2 or $3, they don't want to be seen carrying $2 or $3 up. But they don't mind taking a $100 bill up there. They'll hold it up like this when they walk into the table. See, that's how outside show to the world. You might as well keep that. You might as well keep it. Because, see, you're trying to get light into your own self. You're trying to give glory to your own self, people. And what we need to do, everything we do need to be done for the glory of God. If you're trying to bring glory to yourself, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. I don't care what it is. Whether it be minister of music or preacher or preaching the gospel or the word in the pulpit, evangelizing whole nations or whatever you are doing. If you are doing it to draw light to yourself and glory to yourself, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. And you don't expect to get no more than that. You've got your reward. So as we can see here, as people would always try to label a Christian and say we brought a movement on, this scripture here plainly tells and shows you that no, the Christians didn't start a movement like that. They didn't give a name to themselves. They were called that by others, and that they were first called that at Antioch. So in the next time somebody asks you, you got something now that you haven't answered, you can tell them, no, we didn't give our own self the title. It was given to us by others. In other words, we were first called Christians at Antioch. That being said, this is Mitty Man saying peace. Goodbye.